Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through like foundation and contour and highlight and just giving you guys a little bit of tips and tricks on the way I do my foundation. I get so many questions on my foundation, so I thought it's about time I do a video. If that's something you're interested in, then definitely keep watching. Okay, so you can see my face is completely bare. It does look a little red, just because I had makeup on before and I had to take it off. So it's a little bit red from me rubbing like makeup remover on my face, basically. Um, so right now I'm gonna go through some foundation tips and tricks. I always get a lot of questions from people about how I do my foundation and how do I get my foundation to look the way it looks. Granted, you've seen me on like social media and in front of the camera where my lights kind of make my face look a little bit more flawless than it would look in person. But I do get the same compliments in person that my skin looks really glowy, my foundation lies really nicely on my skin. And a lot of people ask me how I go about getting my foundation to look the way it does. I am by no means a makeup artist, but um, after playing around with makeup for a very long time, I've kind of developed like tips and tricks to just kind of make my foundation look the way I like it. Please note that this will obviously change depending on the skin type you have, and the foundations that you use, and then obviously the tools that you have accessible to you. But I do believe that you can create a look with basically any foundation that you have and any tools that you have available. You just need to kind of like learn the techniques, I guess. So hopefully my little tips and tricks will help you guys achieve what you are trying to achieve. So right off the bat, I do think it's important to just kind of learn certain things before actually like picking and choosing a foundation. It's very important for you to obviously choose a foundation that's going to work well with the skin type you have. There are more or less 3 to 4 categories that skin falls into. There is dry, and that means that you literally have dry skin all over. That skin tends to flake very easily. So if it is you put on a matte foundation on dry skin, then it runs the risk of like cracking and flaking throughout the day, which is not what you want at all. There is combination skin where you have some parts of your skin are oily and some parts of your skin are dry. So I fall in that category. I have a very oily T-zone and very dry cheeks. So those people can tend to get away with both matte and like dewy style foundations. They just have to set their foundations a little bit differently. And then there's like the oily skin type, which is basically oily all over. They tend to be a little bit more acne prone, and will work best with like matte style foundations if that's the look that you're going for. Of course, dry skin can use matte foundation if it's set properly and then they use appropriate like setting sprays. And oily skin can use dewy foundation if that's the look they're going for. They just need to know to set it, prime, etc. appropriately. In terms of coverage, you have to know what type of coverage you're looking for. Some people like really nice, super full coverage, and some people like that natural skin but better look. And that's fine, it's literally a preference. My skin kind of changed a little bit. I used to be extremely oily all over, and now I'm a little bit more combination. And I'm not sure if it's like age or pregnancy or whatever, but I am now more of the combination. And then my preference has changed. So before I used to like really matte, full, heavy coverage foundation, and now I kind of prefer a little bit lighter coverage, a little bit dewier look. That's just a preference. So again, it doesn't really matter. You can literally like what you like and go for what you like. So I'm just here to kind of like give you my tips and tricks on what I find works best for foundation application. So in terms of foundation, it's also important for you to determine your shade. There are 2 different trains of thought. It's either you match your foundation to your neck or you match your foundation to your face. Now for me, I prefer to match my foundation to my neck, and I'll tell you the reason why. In terms of my face and my neck, my face tends to be lighter. And in most people, especially if it is you are accustomed using like skincare and stuff, your face tends to be a little bit lighter than the rest of your body in general. So that if it is you match your foundation to your face, then you are going to naturally have a lighter foundation shade. And therefore, people can automatically tell that you have on foundation on your face. It also kind of gives like a mask-like appearance to the foundation. So you can like, there's like a definite line that ends like right there, where you can tell where your foundation ends and your neck begins, basically. Even if you blend down, it still kind of like tell the difference, which I don't really like. If that's something you prefer, then again, it's your preference, it's whatever. But for me, I just prefer my foundation matches my neck so that there's one seamless continuation. There's no line to indicate that I have foundation on my face that's a different color than my neck. In terms of foundation application, it's also important for you to determine what tool you're going to use. So there are a bunch of different tools that you can use to apply your foundation. Again, it's about preference, what you prefer to use, what you're more comfortable with using, what style you're looking for in terms of coverage, etc. So I'm just going to show you guys some of the tools that I've used over the years that I like. There are obviously a million more other tools that you can use to apply your foundation, but these are just some of the tools that I like. So starting off, an oldie but a goodie is my flat top kabuki brush. This used to be my absolute love to apply foundation. It's really, really good in terms of it buffs your foundation in really nicely. It gives really, really good coverage and it doesn't give you brush strokes, which is why I like a flat top kabuki. There is the Beauty Blender. Everybody has a Beauty Blender. Everybody loves it. I'm not so much a fan of the Beauty Blender for foundation just because it gives lighter coverage, but I have a beauty sponge that I really, really like and it gives better coverage. Because of my hyperpigmentation, I tend to prefer something with a little bit more coverage. And this is the Juno & Co. Microfiber Sponge, which I absolutely love. It gives really nice coverage to the foundation. And I usually then use my Beauty Blender just to go in and remove any excess product. I also use it to apply my concealer. And then recently, when I first started using foundation, I used to use one of these brushes, and then I just kind of like shied away and I got into the more full coverage look. But recently, I've gotten back into it, and this is a dual fiber stippling brush. And I've recently been applying my foundation using this brush. I do enjoy using this brush because it gives a lighter coverage, and I'm able to like blend in a little bit nicer. So I do like this brush. This one is from Madame Mirage. So there are other tools, for example, a bigger version to this. This one is a concealer brush, but there are like large foundation brushes that are like basically like a flat brush. I absolutely detest those brushes for applying foundation. They leave a lot of like brush strokes and streak marks and they just don't blend foundation in nicely. So I avoid brushes like that. I tend to prefer brushes that I can buff and like blend my foundation in better because I think that gives a more natural, better appearance to the foundation. So I have my mirror and we're going to start. Now I think for any foundation routine, I think your base is the most important. If you don't have a very good base, then your foundation is not going to last throughout the day. It's not going to look good. It's going to crack. It's going to cake. It's just not going to look the way it's supposed to look. So for me, because now I have dry cheeks and a little bit of a combination T-zone, what I tend to do is I tend to moisturize my skin a lot. If you are oily, you still need to moisturize your skin. If you are dry, you need to moisturize your skin. Moisturizing your skin ensures that your sebaceous glands, your glands that produce all the oils in your skin, don't have to overwork throughout the day to get your skin moist. So if you're oily, please ensure that you still moisturize your skin so that way you don't have overproduction of oils, and in general that kind of counteracts the buildup of oil throughout the day so you don't end up looking like oily and greasy and like you powder your face with a bara, right? I know it may seem counterintuitive, but that's just something that you need to do. So literally any moisturizer will work. I'm going to be using my moisturizer that I use in my skincare. This is a hyaluronic ceramide hydrator that I use from Melanopeel, but you can literally use any moisturizer that you have, right? So I'm just going to ensure that my face is really nicely moisturized. And an important step is to let your moisturizer sit for a little. So ensure that your moisturizer is sitting on your face for a little bit. You need to get your face settled down. You need to let the moisturizer sink in and do its job. So do whatever else you're doing normally. Like if it is you have to like paint your toenails, paint your fingernails, I don't know, just get ready otherwise while your moisturizer sits on the skin and like penetrates and does its job. So another thing that you can do is literally just put some setting spray on the face just to kind of like set the moisturizer, set your face, prepare your face for any foundation that's going to come after. I like the Morphe Continuous Setting Spray. Any setting spray will do. And I'm going to just let that dry. I'm using the L'Oreal Infallible 24 Fresh Wear foundation. This foundation has sunscreen, so I would avoid using this foundation if it is you are taking any pictures with flash, etc. But it's supposed to be a nice foundation. I kind of guess my shade, I'm not sure. I haven't worn this foundation in a really long time. But I kind of guess based on how the bottle looked. Might be a little bit on the heavy side, the dark side for me, but we'll see. Right? Yeah, it does look a touch dark. Another thing to note is that I'm putting a very small amount on my face. Now, you can always add. It's a little bit more difficult to take away. Like I said, I like this brush for foundation now, so I'm just going to show you guys how I use the brush. So I don't actually stipple with it. I tend to like buff, which kind of spreads the foundation all over and ensures that it kind of covers. So I'm buffing all over just so that it is seamless. But if you notice in the areas where I need a little bit more coverage, I will just tap. So I will stipple. So that keeps the foundation in that one area, and I can buff the rest where I don't need as full coverage. So try to avoid dragging. Plenty of people drag their brushes when they put on foundation. Apart from the fact that you're giving yourself premature wrinkles, dragging tends to like cause brush strokes. You will see that I'm holding the brush to the end of the handle. I'm not holding it close up like that. You tend to like get more pressure. Again, it's going to pull on the skin, as well as you're going to get more brush strokes. If you hold down, you're not as inclined to give as much pressure, and then I can have a little bit more control in terms of I can go in like circular movements, which is basically what buffing is basically like little circular movements. And as you can tell from me just looking, my skin doesn't look overdone. It doesn't look like I've put on a shit ton of foundation. It's just all over the place. It's too much. It's cakey. Too much product over the course of the day will eventually cake and crack, and you'll end up with it in your fine lines, and it just does not look as nice as if it is you were to put on a very, very small amount, buff it in, and then put as you need in your problem areas. You don't need as much foundation on your forehead, same amounts on your cheeks, the same amounts on your chin. If you have more areas that are of concern, you put a little bit more foundation there, and you put less on the areas that are nicer or clearer or blemish free. Now, in terms of concealer, so that's a little V. I don't go very low down, right? A little bit on my forehead, a little bit in my cupid's bow, and a little bit on my chin. The thing that I want everybody to understand is that when you are doing your foundation, apart from all your preferences, you do not have to do foundation the way the trend does it. So I know that a lot of people tend to put concealer in these areas because that's what the trend, but if your shape of your face does not, it just doesn't look good with it, then play around. See, you might like concealer in those little dots. You might like concealer here instead of all under here. It's just dependent on your face shape, and you have to play around a little bit to get the look that you like. My face is already naturally a little bit long. I just like to concentrate the light in the center. It kind of opens up my eyes and it makes my eyes look very bright. And for me, my eyes are my nicest feature. So I tend to kind of like play around that. So I have the Beauty Blender. I prefer putting on concealer with my Beauty Blender just because I don't like the way bristles feel under my eyes, as well as I can never go right up under my eyes the way I want to, as well as this kind of shares the product out really nicely, which is what I prefer. So this has to be wet. It works better when wet. You could use any beauty sponge, basically it works the same. You're just gonna bounce it in the area. So I tend to bounce and kind of spread a little, and then I will go on the other side where there's no concealer to blend it in. Right? So it's blended. There is a little bit of a highlight, but it's not too intense in that area. Same thing for the forehead. Blend it in on the side with the concealer. Just patting movements. If you notice, I'm just patting really, really quickly. And then I'm going to go to the other area where there's no concealer, and blend over it so that it blends in with the surrounding foundation very, very nicely. So same thing again, under eye. So what I tend to do with my under eye is I put the majority of it directly under my eye, and then any excess I bring down and over my eyelid. That way, there's no like distinct cut off where the concealer ends. I hate when people just stop right there, and you can literally tell the concealer finishes right there. So literally just kind of like carry it over so that there's no like obvious like stop demarcation. You can automatically tell the center of my face is a little bit brighter, a little bit more awake. I look like if, okay, I've slept as opposed to the reality. And my face still doesn't look overdone, doesn't look like I have on too much concealer, too much foundation, too much of anything. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of contour. And I think this is where I need to reiterate. You contour according to the face that you have. Again, if you prefer your face to look a particular way, go for it. That's your preference. So for me, I have a long face. I don't actually have, like, I actually have really nice cheekbones that you can tell. So I necessarily don't need contour on my cheekbones, or I don't actually need contour on my jawline because I actually have a natural contour. As you can see, I don't actually have contour on my face, but you can automatically tell there's a shadow on my cheekbone. You could tell there's a shadow on my jawline. I don't need it. I do put a little bit there just because I like the fact that the contour I use is very warm and it kind of warms up my skin, but I don't need it. So you have to keep that in mind when you're contouring. So what I'm using is the Fenty Beauty Stick in the Match Stick in Cocoa. It's one of my favorites. What I'm going to do is, and I like a kabuki brush to contour. I prefer to contour with a kabuki brush just because of the type of product. It's a cream product, and it tends to be a little bit stiff to blend out. So I'm using the Real Techniques Angled Kabuki, and I'm kind of like, I don't drag my contour down. You never want to drag your contour down because then you're going to create like excessive shadows in your areas that you don't necessarily need shadowing. So remember, contour is shadowing just like concealer is highlight. So I want to just warm my face up with the contour and give a little bit of a shape to my forehead. So I tend to buff backwards into my hairline, and any excess product I will then blend onto my forehead. I like to use cream products just because creams tend to last longer, especially if set with powder. And if it is you're going for an all-day foundation look, you definitely want to use a cream contour. Right, so you can see it's blended. It does give a little bit of color to my hairline because my scalp is very like white, and it kind of just warms up my face a little bit, which is what I like about it. And then with whatever excess I have on my brush, I'm just gonna lightly tap it in to my jawline. Like I said, I don't need the contour there, but I just like the fact that it warms up the skin right in that area. And if you notice, I'm not carrying it all the way down. I don't need it. I have a natural shadow that happens there. I just like to warm up the edges of my face a little bit. And that's basically all I'm doing. I'm not carrying it too far in. And then I also like to put contour on my jawline, which I don't necessarily need again, but I'm not overdoing it. I don't want to change the shape of my face too much, and I don't want to over accentuate features that I want to necessarily hide, but I like the way my jawline looks, so I accentuate my jawline a little bit by putting a shadow underneath it to make my jawline pop, which is basically what you're using contour, foundation, and highlight for. You want to pop those things that pop, you want to hide those things that you want to hide, and you just want to accentuate the features of your face that you like. So, like you notice, my face looks a little bit warmer, but it's not too contoured. I haven't done the 3 and the E and the 3 where I put like a big long line and then put a next line and then I put a next line. You don't need that much product to achieve the look you're going for. Cream products are very potent, very pigmented, so you try to avoid overdoing it, and that way it looks a little bit more natural, a little bit like, okay, this may be her skin with a little bit of enhancement. And then what I do is I set my foundation with powder. Now, my all-time favorite powder has always been the Mineralized Skin Finish by MAC. It's been a long time. I haven't tried anything else, or rather, every product I've tried has not lived up to this, and it's just because I like the way this feels on the skin. It's not heavy, it doesn't look cakey, and I am not one to bake. I don't believe in baking if it is you are not into stage performance. I think it's a technique that is used for particular purposes and particular events. I just don't believe in it on a daily basis. So I'm just using my large powder brush and I'm just spreading it all over just to kind of like set my face. And then finally you set with your setting spray. So I think it's one of the most important steps, your setting spray. And that's the finished look. If you notice, I do look like I have skin, like my foundation doesn't look very cakey. It's actually very, very nice in terms of, even with the lights off, my skin looks really nice. Like there is no cracking, no creasing, it doesn't collect anywhere because there's no excess product on my face. And again, express yourself, go for what you like, try different things, and that's the only way you would be able to determine what works best for your face or what you like best. So yeah, I hope you guys like my little chit chat, how to do a base video. Leave your comments, share, like the video, tell me what you think, and you can always message me any questions that you guys may have. I'm always open, I always try to respond to you guys. And until next time, guys, bye.